How's it going, everyone? This is the Anime Man. It is the year of 2020, so happy 2020, everybody. And with the coming of 2020, we have just witnessed an entire decade worth of anime go by, from the 2010s to the 2019s. Now, there are a lot of people online who are giving their top 10 anime of the decade, their favorite anime of the decade list, myself included. Your boy also did a video like that as well, which you can check out, links in the description below. But out of all of the many anitubers, websites, articles that were giving their own personal lists, there was one particular anime of the decade list which caught my eye and rather caught the attention of a lot of people in the online anime community. They're a little website, you guys may not have heard of them. They're called Funimation. I know they're a little underground, I'm sorry. But basically, Funimation went ahead and decided to create a public poll, basically a fan-voted poll for a decade of anime, your favorites of the 2010s. Vote for your favorites from 2010 to 2019. Now, if you guys have been around the online anime community for a while now, you would know when big corporations, especially anime companies, trying to do fan-voted polls like this, aka the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, it usually doesn't turn out amazing. Now, obviously this year as well, Crunchyroll is doing another Crunchyroll Anime Awards, which I can't wait to get my juicy, grubby little hands on later on in the year. But before that, I wanted to check out this Funimation poll, because I believe this was the first time that they've ever done something like this. And I had a quick look through the results of each of the categories, and oh man, this is a doozy. So since there were so many people in my top 10 anime of the decade video who were like, hey Joey, why didn't you talk about this show? Why didn't you talk about this show? And you guys were fucking relentless about that in the comments. So thanks. I figured that we would go through the categories of the Funimation A Decade of Anime Your Favorites of the 2010s list, look at the results, and as we're roasting them, give my thoughts and opinions on what I think should have won, as well as just give a general overview of the winners, nominees, and this entire poll in general. Now, before we begin, let me just clear up a few things quickly. This isn't exactly a roast fully dedicated to Funimation. Obviously, I have some problems with how this whole thing was organized, which I'll get to later in the video, but I'm mostly roasting the people who voted for these winners. And obviously I'm not going to take the winners of each of these categories too seriously, because again, it is fan voted. Obviously there's going to be some bias towards it, especially with the general audience and the general age demographic that uses Funimation like this. So yeah, don't worry, if there are any people at Crunchyroll who are like sweating in their seats right now, I'm not exactly going to be roasting you guys. I'm going to be roasting the absolute shit-taste normies that voted for any of these particular awards. With that out of the way, it's time for the motherfucking tea. Alright, let's start with A Decade of Anime Favorite Anime Film. And the winner is, wouldn't you know it, Your Name. Didn't see that coming. Don't get me wrong, I've made an entire video on why I thought Your Name was fucking amazing back in the day when it first came out, but best anime film of the decade? No. Even in the runner-ups, you have A Silent Voice, which I thought was genuinely way fucking better than Your Name for a number of reasons. But I'm glad at least that in the runner-ups they had Promare, because I feel that there are still so many people who hadn't watched Promare, and so many people just think that, oh, the only people who like Promare are the Trigger fanboys and fangirls, when in actuality, Promare in general is just a really fucking amazing film. Like, I would watch Promare more than I would watch Your Name again, you know what I mean? And then you also have Dragon Ball Super Broly, which, yeah, it was alright, I guess, and then, surprise, surprise, the My Hero Academia movie. Wow, didn't see that coming! Now, would I have voted for Your Name personally? I'm not too sure. When it comes to an entire decade, this decade especially, 2010 to 2019, saw a huge surge of amazing anime films. Like, I feel this is the decade that really gave us, like, the next level quality when it comes to anime films. And it really does suck because, on the grand scale of things, there were so many beautifully created and absolutely stunning cinematic experiences of movies that came out in the 2010s, yet so many people are quick to just name off the first couple of films that came out within the second half of the decade. Because I think so many people are forgetting more about the indie films that came out this year. You know, if you go back to the early 2010s, you have films like The Disappearance of Suzumiya Haruhi, which was a fucking amazing movie. Granted, only the people who were into the Suzumiya Haruhi series really watched it, but it's still a fucking beautiful movie in general. Kyoto Animation was at the top of their game when they came out with this film. But I'm really surprised that there were some notable directors and studios that weren't even nominated for this particular category. For example, Hosoda Mamoru's Wolf Children wasn't nominated at all, which I still think is one of the most beautiful films to come out. And with the passing of Takahata Isao this decade, one of the head people at Studio Ghibli, and his magnum opus, Kaguya Hime, like, I don't know how many people watched that movie overseas, but if you didn't, please go and check it out. It is one of the most visually stunning and absolutely just mesmerizing Studio Ghibli films to come out in a very, very long time. And then you have some other films which I feel deeply resonated with people in Japan way more than it did in the US or just internationally in general, but still were absolutely amazing films. Kono Sekai no Katasumi ni is one of the most gripping World War II films that I've ever seen, like World War II anime films that I have ever seen. And I definitely feel that when it comes to the most underrated anime film, this movie was not talked about anywhere, and it genuinely pisses me off because it was one of the few anime movies that made me cry like an absolute biatch, and that was Makia. I mean, Okada Mari, I've always been a huge fan of, but Makia was so sad and so emotional, and every time I think about the last couple of scenes in that movie, it genuinely brings a tear to my eyes. So yeah, not saying that Your Name didn't deserve to win this, but there were some better contenders out there. Alright, let's move on now to the favorite original series, and the winner of that was Kill la Kill, which I think was an interesting choice because, again, same with anime films, this decade I feel really shined a light on a lot of original series. There weren't so many original series in the previous decade, and I feel this decade was the time where people were like, yep, we're not gonna keep coming off of manga series or light novel series or games. We're gonna like just straight up make some anime. And Kill la Kill, I mean, you know, I think does deserve the win on this. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. This was one of the series that really pushed Trigger Studios' name out into the mainstream, and it was a great series. I mean, I have no complaints about it. The runner-ups here are actually pretty good as well. We had Death Parade from 2015, which I would have personally voted for if I had a chance to vote on this. I also said that Death Parade was my favorite anime of 2015. You had Psycho Pass as well from 2012. Again, really fucking good series. Season 2 was but the first season, pretty damn good. Madoka Magica, I mean, I'm surprised this was even nominated. I thought a lot of people would have forgotten about this considering it's from 2011. But again, yeah, this was an absolutely incredible show. This was a fucking mindfuck when it first came out. And if you've never seen Madoka Magica, please do. Don't just dismiss it as a magical girl show. I'm sure you're aware of how much it's not a magical girl show. And Yuri on Ice, yeah. No thanks. I think with this one, as much as I'm okay with Kill la Kill winning, I personally would have voted for Death Parade, but other nominees definitely would be, you know, stuff like Anohana, which a lot of people think is actually based off of something, but no, it's actually an Okada Mari original, and she's just a fucking genius. But I'm also really sad that the resurgence of Watanabe Shinichiro, the creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, his resurfacing in the 2010s wasn't really touched upon. Shows like Carol and Tuesday and Zankyo no Terra, which are Watanabe Shinichiro originals, those were fucking incredible as well. I mean, like, Carol and Tuesday, one of the most beautiful music-based anime to come out in a very long time, and Zankyo no Teroru was just an absolutely gripping show with one of the most stunning soundtracks to come out in anime in recent times. And if we're going a little more on the underground side, we have shows like Maoru Penguin Drum, done by Ikuhara Kunihiro, the creator of Kakume Shoujo Utena, which is considered one of the most cult classic shoujo series to come out in all of anime history. That show as well, even though a lot of people didn't watch it, I would recommend it greatly. It is an absolutely gripping, fantastic little show, and has a lot of charm to it as well. Alright, this is where things start to get a little whack. We have a favorite companion creature. First of all, what the fuck kind of category is this? Because there isn't really a lot of companion creatures. Not to mention, companion creatures in general aren't really important to the main part of an anime. Like, this is literally, like, this takes popularity contest to the next level. And the winner, of course, is Happy from Fairy Tail, because of course he is. Like, this category, I feel, was made purely just to get something from Fairy Tail as a winner, because everybody knows that if Fairy Tail was competing in any other category out there, it would stand no fucking chance. So the only way that Fairy Tail would have won any of these was to make it something super specific to Fairy Tail, like, I don't know, a companion creature, because everybody likes happy. The other runner-ups, Chopper. I don't know if I would consider him a companion creature. He is a creature who is a side character, but he is more of an actual, like, side character with developments and whatnot, so I don't think I'd consider Chopper a companion creature of sorts. We have Dimple from Mob Psycho 100. I mean, I like Dimple from Mob Psycho 100, but again, he wasn't really important to the overall story, so who cares? We have Hawk from Seven Deadly Sins. Now, I haven't personally seen anything from Seven Deadly Sins, but I did see a lot of people being like, how the fuck did Happy win over Hawk? So I assume just from that he's like a cool companion creature. I mean, he's a little pig. Adorable. And we have Pikachu from Pokemon. Now, I don't know if I would count Pokemon in this, considering that it didn't really start in the 2010s, but I mean, hey, it's still going, I guess, so sure, it counts. I said this on Twitter, but I personally, if I had to have voted on this fucking stupid ass category, I would have probably voted Iggy from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, just because he holds a soft spot in my heart. I fucking love Iggy. But yeah, overall, in general, I'm gonna have to slap the wrist of Funimation on this one, because that was a whack choice for a category. All right, this one definitely caused a massive stir over on Twitter when it came out. A Decade of Anime favorite animation. Now, a lot of people were very quick to judge when they saw favorite animation. A lot of people were quick to judge in thinking that they meant favorite anime. No, they're talking about animation. They're talking about the sakuga, the movement, the drawings in motion. But it still caused a huge controversy because the winner was Kimetsu no Yaiba. Because of course it was. I think this was a huge bias problem because Kimetsu no Yaiba, when this poll came out, was just hitting its peak when it came to animation. Now, don't get me wrong, Kimetsu no Yaiba's animation is fucking incredible. I mean, it's Ufotable. They very rarely fuck up when it comes to animation. But then you have runner-ups like Attack on Titan, Mob Psycho 100, One Punch Man, and Violet Evergarden. Now, I'm not saying that any of these shows have bad animation in any way, but they're also normie as fuck. Like, these are all shows that literally everybody was watching. It's a popularity contest, and just because it's popular, it doesn't mean that it's the best. And I'm really surprised as well, because even out of some of the highly known studios in this list, like say Ufotable with Kimetsu no Yaiba or Kyoto Animation with Violet Evergarden, there were some other great animations that came out in this decade done by those exact same studios. If we're talking about Ufotable, Unlimited Blade Works and Fate Zero, fucking incredible. If we're talking about Kyoto Animation, as much as it didn't have as much action-based movement and all that, there is no denying that the animation quality in Hyoka was absolutely fucking mesmerizing. You take any gif of any scene from Hyoka, and it's like cocaine to the eyes. And if I were to have voted on this, when it comes to the best animation, there is not a doubt in my mind that Studio 4C's Kaiju no Kodomo movie would have absolutely made Demon Slayer wipe its ass on its floor, because Kaiju no Kodomo, as much as I thought that was a seriously average movie when it came to the story presentation, when it came to the animation department, I have truly never seen animation look that good in my life. It was one of the most mesmerizing cinematic experiences that I have ever been through. And of course, it didn't win and it didn't get the recognition because who the fuck watched that movie other than me? But I'm telling you guys, if you want to look at some animation that is just incredible, it's truly like, how the fuck does any studio manage to make anime look this good? Please go and check out Kaiju no Kodomo. Even if you just look up some like GIFs or like AMVs or whatever, just go and look at this animation. It is insane. Alright, Decade of Anime favorite romance series. Of course, the winner was Your Lie in April. Because again, popularity equals good, apparently. Okay, now when it comes to this one, as much as I like to roast it, I did really enjoy Your Lie in April. I know a lot of people took it as kind of a snooze fest, but I personally related to Your Lie in April a lot, considering that Arima Corsair, the main character, is a classical pianist, and I was a classical pianist, so I understand his struggles, you know? It's all about the relativity when it comes to these kinds of things. And then runner-ups, you had Fruits Basket, which is understandable. I'm actually surprised this didn't win because it was a great readaptation. Kaguya-sama Love is War, again, awesome romance, a comedy romance, but still the romance nonetheless. Great show. Bunny Senpai, again, absolutely incredible show. I made a video on it. Awesome. Awesome series. And then Snow White with the Red Hair. I never watched Snow White with the Red Hair, but I heard that it was a really, really cute series. So, surprisingly with this one, I'm actually alright with it. I'm actually alright with these nominees and the winner. But again, if I were to go more into the underground side of things, you know, again, shows like Makia were an absolutely incredible romance series. Not so much a romance between two people, like in Your Lie in April, but a romance of, like, family proportions, a romantic family, not in, like, an incest type of way. You get what I'm saying. But then, how come we have heard nothing about I Want to Eat Your Pancreas? That was one of the most beautiful romance movies to come out in a very long time. I even watched the live action film of that and I still cried because that was an absolutely incredible romance story. But yeah, not too mad about this one. Let's move on. Alright, now of course this category exists. Favorite Isekai series, because we all know that the 2010s was nothing but isekais. But as much as I'm not fully for the category, I am actually pretty okay with the winner of it, because the winner was Konosuba, which I was not expecting whatsoever. I thought it would at least get nominated, but I'm genuinely surprised this actually won, because there were so many isekai series out there that were hyped as shit, hyped up to the fucking ass, but were, in retrospect, terrible shows in general. And I'm sure you know which shows exactly that I'm talking about, right? But yeah, I actually fully agree with this. I think out of all the isekai series that I ever saw this decade, Konosuba by far stood out the most for me. It was one of the most hilarious, just parodical takes on the isekai genre. It's really weird that a parody of an isekai won the best isekai award. I find that very ironic and hilarious. But the runner-ups were Overlord, which again, I also quite enjoyed. We have ReZero, because of course, I'm surprised that ReZero didn't actually win, because again, this is a show that was really fucking hyped up. We have Rising of the Shield Hero. As much as there were so many people who didn't like Rising of the Shield Hero, I actually quite enjoyed it. I didn't think it was amazing, of course. The second half of the show was very rickety, but the first half of the show I thought was pretty well done. And then we have your boy right here, who I genuinely thought was going to win. Judging from how normie the winner choices and nominations have been for the past, like, 5 categories of this video so far, I genuinely thought SAO was going to win this. But you know what? You know what, guys? You've proved me wrong. You've proved to me, at least a tiny little bit, that you at least have some kind of dignity left in your anime taste. So, well done, guys. Okay, this next one, I probably have the biggest fucking problem with, and it is the favorite sci-fi slash fantasy series, and the winner of it was Steins Gate. Now, I don't have a problem so much with the winner, or even the nominations for this, because Steins Gate is an absolutely incredible sci-fi show. Absolutely incredible. Is 10 out of 10 for me. So just meticulous when it comes to the details and how they present them, how they string all of the plot points together at the end. Just makes for a beautifully created, just mindfuck of a sci-fi series. And, you know, we even look at the runner-ups, like Attack on Titan, great show. Dr. Stone, pretty good show. Psycho Pass, great show. SAO, okay, well, that can rot in hell. But the biggest problem I have with this particular category is the fact that they called it the favorite sci-fi slash fantasy. Sci-fi and fantasy are not the same fucking genre. Why would you go out of your way to make a super specific category for isekai shows, which is like a subgenre of fantasy? But you take the entire fantasy genre and the entire science fiction genre and you mash that shit together. Why would you do that? I don't know if the people at Funimation are aware of this, but Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are not the same genre. In the same way that Steins Gate and Attack on Titan are not the same fucking genre. I would have been okay if you had split up this category. Favorite sci-fi series being Steins Gate. Favorite fantasy series being, I don't know, Attack on Titan maybe. Whatever the fuck, right? If you had split these categories up, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But The fact that you put these two genres together means that so many fantastic contenders for both the sci-fi genre and the fantasy genre were basically just cut out completely. There would have been so much room to explore and, I guess, you know, give a chance to all sorts of amazing sci-fi and fantasy anime series out there. And there are some absolutely incredible sci-fi and fantasy series out there other than the ones that have been nominated right here. But I just don't know who decided to think that it was a good idea to slap sci-fi and fantasy together. Like, that's it's not even close. So yeah, I'm gonna have to slap the wrist of Funimation on that one. You did a bad there. All right, up next though, favorite sports series. And the winner of it was Haikyuu. Now, I don't have anything to say about this because I've never seen a single episode of Haikyuu. I've heard it's incredible, I've heard it's amazing, and I'm sure it is incredible and amazing. But I have nothing to say about Haikyuu. I can't roast it, I can't praise it, because I have no idea what the fuck the show is about other than it's around volleyball. So, I'm okay with that. I like volleyball. The volleyball's a fun sport to watch, and I'm sure it's a great show. Just give me some time and I'll definitely check it out. Other runner-ups were Free, because, of course, apparently the majority of the people who voted on this are 12-year-old girls. Kuroko no Basket, which I really did not like because it was just slam dunk with bullshit superpowers. Megalobox, which I actually voted my favorite anime of 2018, so I'm glad at least this got some recognition. And Yuri on Ice. Come on, guys. We all know that nobody watched this show for the sports. Now, there weren't so much a lot of big sports shows this decade. I feel a lot of the great sports shows were some of the old-timer ones. You know, if we're going back to like the 90s and 80s, you have, you know, Slam Dunk, Captain Tsubasa, Touch, like all of those like older shows, like there were sports shows that I feel that was like the real prime time of sports anime. But this decade, we had some not so much sport-like sports shows, which technically do revolve around a sport, but aren't exactly like, oh yeah, that's a sport kind of show, if you get what I mean. You know, shows like Chihaya Furu, Ping Pong, Tsuritama, even March Comes In Like a Lion is technically a sports anime because it's based around shogi, which is technically a sport. I mean, if we were going to include Yuri on Ice on this list, I think it would have been okay to include any of those 4 shows in this category, wouldn't you? If I had a choice to choose my favorite sports anime of the decade, it would either have to go to Megalobox because, again, I voted it my favorite anime of 2018, or if we're going a little underground and a little obscure, I would have definitely voted for Masaki Yuasa's Ping Pong, because even though that show didn't fully, I guess, focus on the ping pong sports element of it, the act of choosing a obscure sport like ping pong to explore the psychological adventures and, I guess, struggles of these ping pong and sports players was a really gripping and enthralling experience to sit through and watch. And I mean, Masaki Yuasa just has some of the coolest ideas when it comes to anime as well, so I feel that should have gotten at least some recognition. Alright, up next we have the favorite shoujo series, which again, I give props to Funimation for highlighting some shoujo stuff, because I feel shoujo gets a really bad rap, or I guess, you know, most places will only focus on the shonen element of anime, whereas a lot of people forget that shoujo is just as big as shonen. It's just, you know, a demographic that isn't exactly more well-known outside of the Japanese anime community, but overall, the winner was 2019's Fruit Basket, which, you know what, I'm probably gonna have to agree with. As much as I love the original Fruits Basket anime adaptation, there were definitely some little nitpicks that the manga readers weren't a huge fan of, and so they just were basically like, alright, you know what, we're gonna do a proper adaptation this time. And they did. They did a fantastic readaptation of a beloved manga series, and I really enjoyed it. As a huge fan and a longtime fan of the Fruits Basket manga, I was really happy with how solidly they redid this anime, so I have no problems with the winner of this. The runner-ups were Banana Fish, again, fantastic shoujo series, more people needed to watch that show, great show. Orange, hell the fuck nah, that was a boring ass, ugly ass show with one of the most bullshit conclusions I've ever seen, so that's a hell nah from me. Puella Magi Madoka Magica, I don't know if I'd consider Madoka a shoujo necessarily. I feel most people label Madoka as a shoujo series because it's technically a magical girl series, and traditionally magical girl series fall under the shoujo category. But the thing with Madoka is that it I wouldn't say is a deconstruction of the magical girl genre, because it really isn't, but it definitely took the tropey shoujo-like elements that were found in traditional magical girl shows and really flipped it on its head to make it relatable to and enjoyable to any demographic, really. So yeah, I don't know if I'd exactly say that this is a shoujo, but I mean, it's still a good fucking show. And Yona of the Dawn, which I never watched, but I heard a lot of people fucking loved it, so I guess I gotta go check it out. Now, as much as I did enjoy Fruits Basket though, when it comes to shoujo of the decade, I'd probably have to give it to Kaicho wa Maid-sama, just because when that show first came out, man, I never thought I would enjoy a shoujo anime as much as I loved Kaicho wa Maid-sama. I mean, that show was so fucking fun to watch. And there were some other great shoujos of this decade as well, which I feel a lot of people are forgetting about. You know, Tonari no Kaibutsu-kun, Ore Monogatari, Aoharu Raido, like, there was some great shoujo shows out there that I think a lot of people, again, were completely forgetting about, because, again, I completely understand if you've forgotten about it, because shoujo is not really a genre that is explored a whole lot in the online anime community, or even between us anitubers, so, yeah, I definitely recommend those shows as well, though. And last, and certainly not least, we have the favorite shonen series. I wonder who the fuck is gonna win this one? Oh, what a surprise. It's My Hero Academia. I mean, was anyone surprised about this winning? Seriously? If anything is riding the hype right now, it's this show. And again, this is not me saying that I don't think My Hero Academia deserves to win this, or I'm not saying that My Hero Academia is a bad shonen in any way. It's really not. But I mean, it's just, I'm not surprised, just disappointed. The runner-ups were Attack on Titan, which I think should have won personally, Demon Slayer, because of course, Hunter x Hunter 2011, again another contender for a winner right here, amazing fucking adaptation, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, again, another contender for a winner, because it's motherfucking JoJo, bitches. Yeah, I don't know, this was just, when I saw this, I was like, of course. Of course. Why did I even have a glimpse of hope into thinking that perhaps this wouldn't win this category? How stupid of me to assume. But there you have it, guys. That is Funimation's A Decade of Anime. Now, my overall conclusions to this list. First of all, to the fans who voted on the winners and runner-ups, you did good in some categories, other categories, you were pretty normie as shit. But overall, I'm not too mad about the results of each of the ones, just overall in general, because I feel that Funimation kind of fucked up a little bit when it came to the choice of categories, because some of the choices in these categories were a little questionable, and I'm really surprised at how few categories there were. Like, even Crunchyroll Anime Awards last year had more categories than this, and even though the winners of that were still questionable and hilarious, the fact that you had so little category choices, I feel didn't really do a good job in highlighting everything cool about anime in this decade. I mean, where were the categories for music and soundtracks? I mean, I feel this decade especially had some of the most incredible music and soundtracks to come out of the anime in a very long time. Where was, you know, the best voice actor, the best girl, best boy, you know, favorite director, favorite voice actor, favorite opening, favorite ending? There were, and even when it comes to genres, favorite horror, favorite comedy, favorite slice of life, you know, there were so many categories that I feel a lot of anime missed out on, because a lot of these anime can't really fit into any of these categories, and I feel should have been highlighted to really give you guys a good glimpse of all of the amazing anime that came out in the 2010s. So yeah, overall, I mean, again, I'm not surprised, just disappointed. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting from a fucking poll like this, a fan poll like this. Just, yeah. I mean, I'm not taking any of this seriously, obviously, but man, it was fun to roast the shit out of Funimation and the fans who voted for this. But guys, let me know what you think about any of the categories, the winners and the runner-ups, or any other thoughts I have about this poll in general down in the comments below. What would you have voted your favorites on? What are some things about this particular poll that Funimation could have changed or made better if they decide to do another one for the next decade or the next year or whatever? And yeah, if you haven't yet, let me know what your favorite anime were of the 2010s down in the comments below as well. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Like and favorite if you enjoyed, subscribe for more anime banter, keep watching anime. Ciao! Ne?